It's your boy Ro coming at you with the next virtual panel from our friends here over at FanX. Now, hey, check this out. You are about to watch a very special live virtual panel. X marks the time. It's everything X-Men related. I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to get this panel started, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure that you remember some of the special announcements that FanX has. First of all, if you want to go ahead and get your tickets in advance to our next show, it's going to be we're going to go ahead and hook you up with a 25% off discount. All you need to do is go to FanX's website, go to their social media, anything and everything. You won't be able to go ahead and miss some of the important information so that you can purchase tickets to our next event. Remember that amazing discount. Number two, here you go. We have a very special meet and greet. Next week, we're going to do a free virtual panel with the one and only Anthony Michael Hall. And then for those lucky enough to go ahead and reserve a spot for either a 1 or 2 minute virtual meet and greet, you will be able to go ahead and have a one-on-one FaceTime call with Anthony Michael Hall. He's the supporting star of things such as Breakfast Club. He also went ahead and did a slew of other movies, including 16 Candles. He's an 80s icon. You're not going to want to miss out. Some of the stories he's got to say are hilarious. You're going to love him. Next week, make sure you go to our Facebook page and check out all the information. Don't miss out on that. Without any further ado, your X-Men panel starts right now. Let me bring in the one and only moderator, Mr. Dane Johns. Dane, what is going on, my friend?
Hey, Ro, how are we doing?
Dude, I am so excited. This material right here, when I saw this up on the virtual panel schedule, I freaked out because I just sat there and thought about all the X-Men characters, everything that's been going on, the new stuff that's happening with that new project that just, yeah, I know. I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to let you take it away because they've dealt with my voice long enough. Everybody, please give it up for Dane. Dane, tell us who's on today's panel.
All right. Well, so first of all, Ro, thanks for setting us up. Can you believe 20 years? 20 years. Hey, everybody. My name's Dane Johns. I am part of the FanX programming committee, and I am a instructor at Boise State University, and I teach classes on graphic novels. And so I'm really excited to get in and dig into the X-Men. I've been an X-Men fan since I was a wee bab. So, Ro, I'm going to let all the panelists introduce themselves. So if you want to start cycling them in, we'll get everybody introduced. What is up, everybody? Hopefully I have the same layout as everyone else. Let's have everybody introduce themselves. Chelsea, you want to go first?
Yeah, hi. I'm Chelsea Bloomfield. I run Utah's Graphic Novel Book Club. I write for Bleeding Cool, and I'm on Freaky Geeks podcast. So thank you for having me.
McCord?
Yeah, my name is McCord Larson. I'm a writer and producer for Olympus Media International.
Karen coming to us from the other side of the country, actually a whole other country. International up in here.
Hi, my name is Karen Santora. I am a marketplace coordinator. I work with artists. I'm an illustrator, photographer, been in the cosplay community for quite some time. And I've been a near lifelong fan of X-Men, especially the films. So I'm very happy to be here.
Joe?
Hi, I'm Joe Dorowski. I wrote a book called X-Men and the Mutant Metaphor, Race and Gender in the Comic Books, and I also edited an essay collection called The Ages of the X-Men, and I host the Protagonist podcast, where each week we talk about a great character in a great story.
And Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Mangum, a local filmmaker here in Salt Lake City. I also am co-host of the Movies That Make Us podcast.
All right. So actually, Joe, I should say we use some kind of tangential material from your book in my class.
Oh,
yeah. It's interesting to finally put a face with the name, and I'll have to get you to sign my copy of it next time.
Happy to do so.
When COVID's over. All right, everybody. Before we dig into the questions and the panel, let's set the scene. It's 1996, and if you weren't an X-Men comic, nobody read you for Marvel. DC had a slew of big events, the death and return of Superman, the Nightfall run. Tim Drake was finally Robin, kind of in his own set. Joker's Wild 2 was selling, but nothing in the X-Men and the Marvel Universe was selling. The Avengers weren't the cast we love them, that we love now, and Marvel was struggling. And DC Comics had made an offer to buy Marvel, and we're just a few FCC rulings away from taking over all comic book publishing in the US. And Stan Lee made a deal. He made a deal with Fox Media to try to bring in some money. And he put some money together. Fox bought some properties, and they made not the X-Men, but Blade. You can thank Wesley Snipes for the MCU you love and you know and love now today, and it's kind of funny to think about that. Blade made some money, but not a lot, and so Stan Lee and Fox made a Hail Mary when they created X-Men 2000. Now, this movie, there was a lot about it that shouldn't have worked. Superhero stories weren't the norm. The last good, superhero story we had was, 1992 or 3 when Batman Returns came out. All the Marvel properties were straight to video abominations, like the Captain America movie with the rubber ears attached to his helmet. We didn't know superhero movies yet, and it was Blade and the Blade and the X-Men that gave birth to the modern superhero movement. So let's dig into X-Men 2000. The first question I want to turn over to my panelists. One of the things that's so endemic to comic book movies is complaining about the casting. We think about, there's been a recent controversy over whether or not Robert Pattinson can handle the Batman. The trailer seems to show that he can. When Michael Keaton was cast as Batman, there was an actual letter writing campaign. Like, it wasn't a Facebook poll. It wasn't a radio button. People had to literally write letters and then put stamps on them to complain to Warner Brothers about Michael Keaton. So what I want to know, and the X-Men movies aren't free from this, so I'm asking all of you, what is your surprisingly good casting choice? Who, when they were cast, do you think people reacted negatively to, and who were you pleasantly surprised by? And I know Chelsea's been doing some research, so we're going to start with her, and we'll go through that same order and see if we can't dig in and get good answers from everybody. So, Chelsea, your surprisingly good casting choice.
Well, I mean, obviously everyone's going to say Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right? He took the role and he ran with it, and he wasn't even the first choice. X-Men 2000 was kind of in a developmental hell for a while. The script was actually written, I think, in the 80s. So when they brought him on, it really just was a stepping stone to get it into the next phase for Marvel, especially like Ian McKellen, actual serious actors who weren't just coming in and being like a silly role. I mean, Jack Nicholson joking around as the Joker was a good casting choice, but they didn't ever make villains very serious. And so I think that was really what set X-Men 2000 apart, and the surprisingly good casting choices for me.
All right. McCord?
Oh man, I have a long list of surprising cast choices. Actually, when they first announced that it was even going to be a thing, I still even have somewhere my old Wizard magazine. Anybody remember that?
I got here.
Yeah, and they had this list of cast that was crazy for the X-Men movie. Kurt Russell was Wolverine, and all these different choices. And so, I mean, there's been a lot of good and a lot of bad, but two rise kind of up to my list. I don't even know if I say his name right. Stefan Kapicic for Colossus in Deadpool I think he should be in every X-Men movie ever going forward. But also Zazie Beetz as Domino. Yeah, I'm a big X-Force fan. In fact, I have I got my book right here.
Oh,
my
hey.
big you have that too?
Oh no, I was like, I have X-Force right here within arm's reach.
No, that's not X-Force. This is X-Force.
Sorry,
right here.
I didn't know that Remender didn't count.
No, if it doesn't have Cable and Shatterstar and Cannonball in it, it's not X-Force. And Domino's been a favorite character of mine since the 3rd grade. So I was really hesitant about that cast, but she nailed it, man. She was awesome.
All right, Karen.
This one was actually kind of a quick decision for me because I always thought this casting choice was really weird at the time when they announced it. But then once I saw the film, I realized it was probably one of the saving graces of it and kind of works its way back into my heart. It's Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth in the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. And I say that because Liev Schreiber is not at all who you would expect to be that kind of character, and especially after the 2000 X-Men movie where we already had a Sabretooth who was played by someone who I think was a
Perfect.
WWE wrestler.
Yeah, Tyler.
Yeah, and he was perfect. Tyler Mane. He was awesome.
Yes, but for an origin story that centers around Sabretooth and Wolverine, I thought Liev Schreiber was shockingly good in that film. Like the writing again is not good. However, he did really well with what he had, and I thought did a fantastic portrayal as Sabretooth.
Okay. Joe?
For me, it would be in Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler in X2 X-Men United.
Yes.
When you hear that, you think Alan Cumming in a superhero film. Like, good actor, but I didn't see him in a superhero role. But I thought he really nailed a lot of the my favorite aspects of the character of Nightcrawler.
Yeah, and Joe, it's important for our audience to keep in mind, since you mentioned like we don't think of good actors being in superhero films, that wasn't a thing yet, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the major actors who'd come to superhero films did it when either their careers were early or when they were on a decline. Like Michael Keaton was on a little bit of a comedic decline when he took over, Batman '89, and it kind of was a career renaissance for him. And Christopher Reeves wasn't really known for much when he was Superman, so it wasn't a tradition yet. We didn't have, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart really made it okay for these actors who'd done stuff for a long time to be in these movies. So thank you for mentioning that with Alan Cumming. Tracy?
I'd go with Daphne Keane as Laura. Here's an 11-year-old girl.
She's awesome.
She had to carry so much of that film, and she did it pretty much flawlessly. 11 years old, nobody really knew who she was or what she'd do, and she just absolutely blew it out of the park.
Yeah, it's always tough when you cast kids, right? I mean, Tracy, you said you're a filmmaker, right? So
yeah,
you struggle with that, right? Because you never know what you're going to get. You could get Daniel Radcliffe, or you could end up with a kid who just sits there and cries the whole time. So
right.
Well, have you guys seen her audition?
No.
Daphne Keane's audition when she's reading with Hugh Jackman. It's really, really good. That whole scene where she just like starts freaking out and yelling at him in Spanish apparently was her idea. And as they were filming the audition, she's like, "Can I try something?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then she just starts like hitting Hugh Jackman and freaking out. And it's what got her the role. And it really, she crushed it.
Yeah, you always love to see those moments when even a young actress, but anyone takes a chance and it ends up being in the movie. I like that quite a bit. All right, so I have a choice too. I wouldn't ask you guys to do something that I am unwilling to do. And my first thought was maybe Evan Peters as Quicksilver. He'd been in Kick-Ass. People weren't quite sure what they had, with him yet. But my actual choice is going to be Kelsey Grammer in the Mark Line X-Men 3, the movie that was so bad they killed it, just like Highlander 2.
But he was perfect in that film.
He carried it on his beautiful blue shoulders.
I think
he was the perfect choice.
And for my research, I've also, besides the book on the X-Men, I wrote a book on the TV show Frasier. So that's like a nice Venn diagram.
There you go.
Kelsey Grammer as Beast.
I'm surprised you didn't take that. So I don't know if you guys remember, but X2 was so good. Like X-Men 1 was good, and it was good enough to greenlight a sequel. And then X2 broke all sorts of expectations, not just for what an X-Men film could be, but for what a superhero film could be. And they got, they had Brian Cox and all these character actors come in and Alan Cumming. And then X3 was like, people were ready for it. Like when they said Vinnie Jones was going to be the Juggernaut, like nobody reacted negatively. They're like, oh, the guy from, Gone in 60 Seconds, let's do that. Let's make him huge. And when people said Kelsey Grammer was going to be Beast, everyone went like, really, Frasier? And it shouldn't have been nearly the surprise that it was, right? But that
it wasn't to me. I thought that was perfect from day one.
There was a huge negative reaction. Like, really, the guy from Cheers and Frasier, like people thought he was too old, and they're like, oh yeah, he's got a good voice, but like CGI isn't there yet, and there was a big negative reaction. So, and Chelsea's right, he ended up being the best part about that movie, hands down,
easily.
Easily.
That and the fact that they got the line from the really funny dub over "I'm the Juggernaut." They took an internet meme and put it in the movie. Like those are the two best things about X3.
Before internet memes were cool.
Yeah. And I guess the next coolest thing about X3 is that it doesn't exist anymore. Like bam, 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 in that order.
Yeah, they wiped it out of continuity completely.
Yeah, they Highlander 2'd it.
And that was such a studio issue too. Because Singer had everything ready to go. All the other dude, we won't even mention his name, had to do was say action, but they were so mad at him for leaving to do Superman that they threw out the whole thing and replaced the whole thing and weeks.
Yeah.
And then they had to just adjust on the fly, and they were so mad at Cyclops for going with him, for James Marsden to go with him, that they literally just said, you're contracted to be in the movie, but you don't have to be alive. And so they killed him in like the first 3 minutes, and it was terrible.
Yeah. Nobody really likes Scott Summers anyway, though.
Hey, no, you watch your mouth.
Actually,
That blasphemy right there.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I had.
I don't
to say
even
it.
know where to point. I'm
also that is so insensitive, because the voice actor, I'm not actually calling you insensitive, but like the voice actor for the
Oh, that's
original
right.
animated series, he just died recently, for
Oh,
the guy who
no.
played Cyclops. And it was
That
big
made me
news
sad.
it's big news up here because he's a Canadian, like he's from Toronto, so it's like that really hit hard. I was like, no, my childhood.
Oh no.
But yeah, like that was rough.
Yeah. So speaking of, and I know this is supposed to be about the films, but can we just take a second and just say that I'm 34. I'll be 35 in a week. I'm so mad the X-Men cartoon doesn't hold up nearly as well as Batman the Animated Series does.
Or gargoyles.
Yeah, Gargoyles is another one.
Or Darkwing Duck.
Well,
Even Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck is perfect in every way, and like that's why they're not rebooting it. All right, second question coming at you for the panel. Recently, Nando V Movies, who's a real popular YouTuber, last year he did for kind of the end of the MCU or the end of the Infinity Saga. They did a one marvelous scene where he asked a bunch of other YouTubers to dig into one specific scene. And for this year, he did one excellent scene. So there's already 500 of these out there where you could go and search them. But I'm asking this panel specifically, one scene across 20 years of film. What is the best and or your favorite scene in an X-Men movie? Break it down for us. You'll have a couple of minutes. And let's go in reverse order. Let's start with Tracy this time and work our way back.
You want my best moment?
Yeah, your best X-Men scene. Give it to us. What is it? Tell as a filmmaker.
I loved. I think it was in X2 where Nightcrawler goes into the White House.
Undisputed.
That was my pick. It's already taken.
Oh,
My pick.
it was just so far advanced from what we had seen for superhero films. So creative in the way that they did the special effects. That scene has just always stood out for me.
Okay. I mean, I guess Joe will get a chance to expand on that a little bit. Karen, what about you?
I actually had multiple answers for this because it was really hard for me to find just one sequence that I was like, oh God, this means so much to me. But like the one I think I have to pick above all others is the moment in Days of Future Past where young Charles Xavier meets his older self. And they have their telepathic conversation through time. And Charles basically sees what he becomes and what the world becomes. And it helps to give him clarity for what he's doing in his own time. And that eventually everything that he's suffering through and everything that he's doing is going to be worth it if it prevents such a terrible future. And I think if people had that kind of foresight, if they had that ability to they can see where their lives were going and how much impact they have on people, how much that resonates. And so that moment always meant so much to me.
Yeah, and it's a big enough moment that you can see it influencing Hickman's current X-Men run, because that House and Powers of X is all about Charles getting some clarity and another chance. So that's a great scene. Thank you, Joe. Let's talk about Nightcrawler, I guess.
Yeah, one thing that sticks out to me about that scene is actually seeing it in a packed theater and feeling that communal response of, wow, this action sequence is something special. Something that we all, maybe we'll someday experience again if we can get into packed theaters at some point in the future when it's safe to do so. But for me, in like superhero films, one of my favorite parts is that that you feel a different energy when you're watching it with a group of fans who are all there and excited to see it. If you can get in on opening night or opening weekend versus when you watch it, for the fifth time in your house and it's just on the TV, like you don't have the same experience at all. And I still remember that feeling during the Nightcrawler sequence of everyone being kind of on the edge of their seat and just very impressed with what was happening on the screen.
Yeah. I think what resonated, unless McCord's going to talk about this scene too. Was that your choice too, McCord?
It was, but I can pick a different choice.
Okay. So I think Joe and Tracy, and
If
you
I
guys
have.
can maybe weigh in on this a little bit, and Tracy especially as a filmmaker. What got me about that scene, in addition to being like maybe the best instance of teleportation ever in film or whatever,
Right.
was they got the sound right.
Mhm.
So when we're talking
BAMF.
about it, the BAMF, right? Because you've read, Nightcrawler shows up in the all new, all giant X-Men in 75, right? He's part of that third class of X-Men that come in. And for years, it had been BAMF, right? And that's what we got. And I think what was so powerful about that scene, and do either of you know how they did it? Because I don't know what they used to make that noise.
I'm not
I
sure.
have no idea.
Okay. Joe, okay. Just hearing that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what that word says.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like being able to put an actual sound to like the Batman 66 blammo, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, blammo. That's what that's supposed to sound like. So for Nightcrawler, that actually gave me an auditory sensation that now for decades worth of comic books I will put in when I read that word. So, all right, McCord, let's have it.
Okay, well, my actual favorite scene of any live action X-Men actually happened in the TV show The Gifted.
Okay.
So jumping ship just a little bit, and that's when Thunderbird, James Proudstar, put the black paint over his eyes and called himself Thunderbird for the first time. I was like crying when that happened because I'm a sap. But I think in the movies, it also has to do with his brother Warpath when they were fighting the Sentinels in Days of Future Past, and Blink's just throwing around all these portals everywhere, and Warpath's just jumping through them and just putting his blades in through Sentinels, and that whole sequence of events with those mutants, with Bishop, with Blink, and all those guys. I never thought I'd see Warpath in a movie. Again, referring back to that 90s X-Force, and that was really exciting for me.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of got shafted because I would have really liked to see that team operate some more as opposed to just being a vehicle to give us more Hugh Jackman. Not that I'll ever be upset about more Hugh Jackman, but I think that
I was a little upset about more Hugh Jackman.
Okay, fine. All right, Chelsea, what do you got for us?
So speaking of Hugh Jackman, my favorite scene was in Logan when Wolverine and X-23 finally let loose in the forest massacre scene. It was a very weird moment for me because I saw it with my dad, and when they're fighting together and murdering all these people, I remember just looking and being like, oh, it's like daddy-daughter time. And looked at my dad and this is sweet. And it was just weird. That part, I know, it totally made me cry though, because it was the perfect launching point for a new Wolverine. And I think that we really needed that, especially with how popular Hugh Jackman was in that role. I think that was the necessary fan service for us to say goodbye to him and then hello to the next phase of what X-Men's going to be. So for me, that was my moment, just daddy-daughter time.
Yeah, I think Cable should bring her over to the MCU.
Maybe,
Just
or
saying.
Hope. We might get a
Cable
Hope
can
Summers.
just jump over and bring Daphne King over.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, maybe he will now.
All right, I'm being told that some of our audience members have thrown out some suggestions. Let's see what we've got. Brent Robinson, I was going to say the Quicksilver scene in Days of Future Past is my favorite, but the scene with old Xavier and young Xavier over time was excellent. So it sounds like Karen's choice is getting some love there. What else do we have? The opening scene of X-Men Origins where Logan and Sabretooth were fighting through every major war. Alex, we were talking about that kind of in the pre-panel, and I'd made the comment that no one wants to hear us talk about X-Men Wolverine Origins, but maybe I was wrong. and do we have one more? Quicksilver and Days of Past. Oh, hi, Shrette. Shrette's one of my former students. Thanks for tuning in. So I've got to throw in my choice here, right? And so I was really tempted to choose the raid on the X Mansion from X2.
X2.
And it's such a great scene, but I think I have to choose the scene that's so nice they filmed it twice. And that's got to be Xavier and Magneto playing chess, where the line gets dropped. What do you do when you wake up at night and they come for their children. And Xavier says, I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul that comes to my home looking for trouble. And that scene was so powerful. They filmed it with both sets of actors. They filmed it at the end of the end of the original movie, and then they had McAvoy and Fassbender film that same scene as younger people. And so I think that seems that powerful.
Yeah, I actually just rewatched Apocalypse right after I saw.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry you had to sit through that again.
No, I actually don't have as much issue with Apocalypse as I think most people do. It's definitely like middle of the road in the span of all the movies, but that movie just ended so well with that line and with where it like that movie is where the franchise should have ended, in my opinion. It's like you could have just ended it there.
Yeah, I mean,
so good.
I think if they'd ended it there, we wouldn't have got Logan, but we certainly didn't need whatever Dark Phoenix was. Although if we had to talk about one excellent scene from Dark Phoenix, Magneto telling her she doesn't want forgiveness, she wants permission is real powerful, right? That's kind of the culmination of Fassbender's arc in saying that like this is you're kind of trying to wage the war I wanted to fight, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And it kind of has a different take on Magneto. So let's flip this. We talked about our favorite scenes. Let's say each of you are given a time machine and you can go back in time and fix one scene in one X-Men movie, and we'll include the Deadpool. Well, okay,
I do too.
The Deadpool stuff as well, to make any movie better and fit better. So
I can't just pick a movie.
Okay, so
one scene. You get to fix one scene,
movies.
and that's it. So, Karen, did you say you had one, or Chelsea had one?
No, I have one. Oh my God,
All right, do it.
I would take out that stupid scene when Storm asks, "Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?"
Ironic though.
Ow!
That was a Joss Whedon. That was a Joss Whedon written line, by the way.
That line made it into IMDb's 100 worst one-liners of all time.
I remember sitting front row when that movie came out and just when it happened. That's mine.
I'm wearing a Storm shirt. She's my girl, right? And to see her say something that dumb, it hurt. You're right. It hurt. All right. Who else?
It could have been worse. It could have been X-Men animated series Storm.
Ooh, saying that line, that would be worse. All right, Karen, what do you got for us?
I would have the entirety of post-surgery Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine. That entire climax sequence, like that just needs to be completely redone with Ryan Reynolds actually being able to talk and make jokes.
Well, I mean,
Merc with the mouth isn't real.
Deadpool 2 fixed it. It's gone. He fixed it. You're welcome, Canada.
It's gone.
He killed him.
Yeah.
Doesn't he say something like "You're welcome, Canada" at the end of it? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Joe, what do you got for us?
All I would want is, as the credits roll on X-Men and X2, the directed by Bryan Singer, it's just directed by no one. We don't know who directed it, so we don't have to do some of the messy work of separating art from the artist.
Gotcha.
Hey, there you go.
Anybody else have one? Tracy, you're our filmmaker.
I got one.
You guys covered both of mine that I had in thought, but I don't know if I would go with this specific scene. Can I change an actor?
Sure, we'll let it.
I think she's a tremendous actor, but she just didn't seem to have it for this role. Was Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique? For some reason, it just never worked for me.
Yeah, I think she's really controversial. I think people either love her or hate her in that role. I really like her in First Class, and then her subsequent performances seemed kind of phony.
Downhill.
Yeah. It was very like downhill from, I would say, like Days of Future Past was her strongest performance, and then Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix was just she was phoning it.
That was a contract obligation. That's what
yeah.
All right, McCord, what do you got for us?
Okay, mine's kind of coming out of left field. It's in X3, and they have found the mutant camp, and all of the soldiers come running into the mutant camp, and it's all just multiple man dupes. The whole camp is multiple man, and then he just sucks in all of the multiple man dupes and says, "You got me." And I almost like screamed out loud in the movie theater, like multiple Multiple Man's my boy, right? Like, I'm like, you had one job. He had one scene. Like, you ruined it. You ruined it for everybody. And that's not much of a distraction, right? If they really wanted to make him a distraction, every single one of those dupes would have started throwing punches and just start tackling all of the soldiers. And as soon as they like grab one, then he sucks it in. And then there's just empty handcuffs and stuff, right? Like that would have been the Multiple Man scene to do. And the fact that he just like quit. I'm still mad.
And the actor that played him is Eric Dane, who is from Grey's Anatomy fame. And that was supposed to be his big launch into movies. It did not.
He was awesome. He was great. I thought he was perfectly casted. And
yeah,
when they introduced him, they're like, he robbed 7 banks at the same time. I was like, yes. And then they ruined it. I was very upset.
So my choice is actually also in X3. And I would fix the Juggernaut by having him not be a mutant, because Leech's powers should not have worked to make it so he couldn't run through the wall, right? And then
right.
He once Ellen Page phased him into the floor, that should have been it, right? That's the but yeah, I would have had him and then not hit the wall, right? The Leech's powers shouldn't have worked, and I would have given him like 15 seconds earlier in the movie when he first sees Xavier to do the little stepbrother kind of wink nod to the comics, and then that would have fixed a big chunk of X3 for me, I think. And maybe they wouldn't have had to delete it at that point if they had some Vinnie Jones, Charles Xavier interactions. All right, I know we've got some fan questions, so at this point I'm going to open it up. Let's throw one up and see what we got.
Oh, I love Ray Park.
Perfect. Loved it.
Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I think that he should be celebrated in this role. He did so good. I mean,
they should bring him back.
In my opinion, he carried the Star Wars prequel movie on his back. He was the best part of the Solo movie, and also one of my favorites in X-Men 2000. Like, I think he absolutely killed it. Perfect choice.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with not that great of a character.
Right.
I mean, Toad is not that great of a character, and he really brought him to life. Yeah.
Yeah, like
he's written well. Jason Aaron's Toad was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my only experience with Toad before that was in X-Men Evolution, where it's like it was a completely disconnected Toad from what we ended up seeing later on in the X-Men movies, but it seemed like it was very based on the Ray Park Toad from 2000, and it's like I wish we had gotten more of him.
Yeah.
There was recently, I can't remember the name of the YouTuber off the top of my head, but you could Google it. Recently, a YouTuber went through and tried to recast everybody for the MCU. And I was watching his videos, just kind of glued to him, saying, like, these are all perfect choices. And now I cannot remember the name of the kid who suggested to play the new Toad. But he was in just kind of this weird buddy movie recently, and he's very short. And I'm searching for the name now, but now I'm not seeing it. But I thought Ray Park was fine. I didn't feel like, because for me, I came to Toad from the Toad that was in Pride of the X-Men, which is a 1989 30-minute kind of pre-X-Men. Exactly.
The pilot.
Where Wolverine is Australian for some reason. Talking about a dingo.
If you can't get a Canadian, you get an Australian. It's just the rules.
Apparently.
I have a theory on why Wolverine's Australian in that. There's
Yep.
a point where he calls Pyro mate, and I think the writers intended Pyro to be the Australian, and Wolverine was saying that to Australian, but whoever was casting just thought Wolverine was the Australian because he used the word mate.
Well, and I think Pyro is Australian in that, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought that was where the confusion maybe
Pyro's
came from.
Australian in the comics.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
I love it when it's Kitty Pryde's first day and Professor Xavier just hands her the mainframe of Cerebro and says, "Oh, by the way, Magneto's here. Good luck."
Yeah.
She just starts running through the walls and like, "See you, kid. Like, welcome to the X-Men."
What I
don't
love about that, and what's firmly rooted in the 80s, is Nightcrawler's a big old creeper in Pride of the X-Men. And it's just
so handsy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the Toad that I get to, the one who's like, and so like seeing Ray Park, who I knew with Darth Maul, I was like, that guy's way too cool to be Toad. Like it just worked. All right, let's have another question. Let's see what we got. Has anyone in the panel cosplayed as an X-Men character? McCord?
I have.
Okay, who you got?
I was multiple man, actually.
Do you have like several
and
twin
it
brothers
worked out.
to make it work?
I wish. But yeah, I wore it to Salt Lake Comic Con, and there were a lot of people that were like, "Wow, a multiple man character that actually looks like multiple man." So that's the one costume that you want to see multiples of.
Right.
Right. You want to see other people dressed up like you if you're a multiple man. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
All right, and I had Karen. Who did you cosplay as?
Well, it's a sort of cosplay because it was more a Halloween costume at a cosplay themed Halloween party. Like everyone was a cosplayer, but I did Rogue because Rogue is my favorite superhero of all time. So I had to dress up.
You could pull off Rogue.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, like I basically did her, but the problem is I need to wear my glasses and I was unwilling to wear a wig. So essentially I just had my normal hair and glasses, but the rest of the outfit was done.
Works.
There you go. Yeah. I'm trying to work on one. I desperately want to play White Suit Magneto from the Hickman comics. I am too chubby. Unlike our host Ro, I'm not out doing all the karates all the time. And so I just don't have the body for it. Unfortunately, I'm not chubby enough to do Blob. So like I'm in this middle zone where I don't have anybody I really fit, but maybe after way too many sit-ups, I'll be able to do White Suit Magneto.
You can do Beast.
Yeah, with a lot of prosthetics because I would want to go all the way and where I would do the little briefs as well. All right, let's see another question.
Ooh, I have a good one. So I think that something that might be kind of fun, especially as we're going into like phase 4 of the Marvel universe, is maybe do House of M. And then that way it'd be a good introduction of bringing Scarlet Witch over from, regular Marvel proper and then introducing her into the X-Men stories. It'd be a lot of fun time travel things, which I've already played with in Marvel proper. We would get a whole bunch of new mutants. I mean, simultaneously while wiping them all out. But then it would also lead into other storylines like the Messiah complex, where we would get like X-Men, Marauders, Purifiers, Predator X, all these different things. And like McCord said earlier, then we could have Cable jumping universe. Yeah, we could have like Cable jumping universes and bringing Hope Summers in. So yeah, I personally think House of M would be fun. And then the Messiah complex. There's also God Loves, Man Kills, which is it's another striker villain, but I mean, I think that it would be a really cool thing to do, especially like playing on the religious trope. But I don't know, any of those would be really cool.
All right, McCord, what do you got for us?
Messiah Complex is also one of my favorite books like I've ever read. So what I would do is a television series of X Factor investigations with that team with Multiple Man, Strong Guy, Wolfsbane, Richter. I mean, it's a superhero show and a cop drama, and I think it's like the lowest hanging fruit for Hollywood. Like, why hasn't this been done? And I think it'd be fantastic. X Factor Investigations would be a perfect television show.
Right.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Right?
I love what Noah Hawley did with Legion on FX. I'd love to see that storyline up on the big screen someday.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out Legion, really, you owe it to yourself. Three seasons, perfect.
The Shadow King in that is so
late
good.
at night by yourself.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a good space opera version of the X-Men. Like I actually like it a lot when they go out into space.
Yeah.
I know there's
Game of Thrones
to acknowledge some of the space opera side, but like I said, a good version of all that.
Yeah. And
like they could do the Phoenix stuff actually in space where it started, and then they could have all the little broccoli people that get wiped out. Xavier could be a creep on Jean Grey like he was in the comics, and then everybody could just be angry but yet so dazzled by just pretty X-Men in space. And then they could meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything could just kind of like
Realm of Kings. Realm of Kings with the long lost Summers brother.
Yeah. There's so many of them.
Karen, did you have one?
I'm very similar to Joe. I would just want to see like a really good space opera because again, you got the Shi'ar Empire at the disposal of the X-Men universe. I'm baffled that they didn't use that in Dark Phoenix. Like this was after Guardians. They could have gone that route, and they went for a knockoff Skrull alien that I think has appeared maybe once or twice in the comics and in all of Marvel. That decision just made no sense to me. So I want like proper Shi'ar Empire storyline in the movies.
Until we get a good version of that on screen, if our viewers are looking to read one, Christopher Golden did a series in the late 90s of novels. It's a trilogy, and it's just been re-released as an omnibus called The Mutant Empire, and half of it takes place in space and doing the Shi'ar stuff. I'm going to be real excited about this. I'm going to be real mad if the MCU does not introduce the X-Men using Night of the Sentinels. It is a classic comic run. It is how the animated series kicked off, and we still haven't seen a good Sentinel on screen. The closest we got, I think, was at the end of one of the X-Men movies where Wolverine throws its head in a danger room, right? The Sentinels we got...
It was in the beginning of X3.
Beginning of X3, okay. And
it was a danger room.
Yeah, in the danger room. The Sentinels we got in Days of Future Past were not Sentinels, right? We want... And whoever voiced them for the series must come back and do it. Like that's an absolute must. I think we might have time for one more fan question. Why do you think Cyclops? I think McCord, weren't you talking about this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so James Marsden was perfect for the role. They made him really stiff. My understanding is that Singer had an arc set up for Scott, and he was supposed to play a really big role in the Dark Phoenix. He was supposed to come down. Like I've read what the original writer of the Dark Phoenix movie had written, and it's absolutely incredible. And Scott had a really big part in bringing Jean kind of back in from the Phoenix. And there was an intention, but I mean, he was completely gone from X2. And he was kind of vanilla in X1, but he was really supposed to come in and be this powerful figure in X3. And it just didn't happen. So I blame Fox Studios and Brett Ratner.
Because there was a bit of a fight, right, when he left with Singer to go do Superman Returns.
With Superman, yeah. In fact, they said you're not going to be in it, and his agent called and said he has to be in it, and he said, well, he doesn't have to be in it for long, and so they got rid of him.
I'm looking at our producers. Do we have time for one more? Can we get one more thrown up there since that one was quick?
Astonishing X-Men, Joss Whedon, The Gifted.
That's a really good one.
That's the one I recommend to everyone.
Or if you want a wild ride, just go start at the early Claremont run.
I was going to say to start with the 90s X-Men.
Yeah. If you do Claremont, be ready to read walls and walls and walls of text. So
yeah, that's a little hard to read for new readers.
Probably better.
Yeah, Joss Whedon. He was the writer and director of the first Avengers movie. It kind of feels more cinematic, and for today's audience, I think it's a really good kind of jumping on point. After the Joss Whedon run, I kind of go with the Messiah Complex typically, but that is a little bit more involved. But that Whedon run's a really good place to start.
The novels I mentioned earlier by Christopher Golden. If you struggle with reading a dual medium like a comic book where it's both visual and words, if you struggle with that, the Mutant Empire trilogy is maybe, and I don't know if my other panelists have read it, but it might be the best X-Men story ever told in a print medium, and I might get stuff thrown at me for that. I personally think that if you're brand new to X-Men and you don't have a lot of experience, then the X-Men Red, Blue, and Gold, that was the kind of end of the continuity prior to what's going on with the Hickman comics, will get you it'll get you caught up with what's going on now before you try to jump in. Do not just go buy House and Powers of X, although it didn't come out in a trade this month. Don't go buy that. You will be on Google for hours trying to figure out what's going on.
X-Men has always been one of those series that's really difficult, I think, for people to jump in at any given point. Like, you really need to have a good base understanding of what's going on and which characters you're following, because if you don't have a track like that, you get lost really fast.
And
that's why I like Whedon's run. It was like 5 characters,
yeah,
and he just kind of stuck to that. and then you can kind of go up from there.
Yeah, the old Claremont classics, starts in 75, and so like there's a lot there, and it's the basis for what all of modern X-Men is. Do not, and I can't stress this enough, do not try to read Grant Morrison's The New X-Men without an understanding of who they are.
Nope.
You will hate the X-Men and you will hate yourself. Even though it might
don't do that.
Even though it might have the best opening panel in all of comic runs, don't do that. You'll hate yourself. All right. Welcome back, Ro.
What's going on, fam? I am having so much fun, and I'm super glad that you went ahead and brought that up, because I was thinking, especially for myself, I'm a fan, but like the more and more I hear about all these different stories and story arcs and storylines and different things, I'm like, where do I even start? Where do I go? So the fact that you guys went ahead and touched base on that, I love it and appreciate it. But I have one question for everybody on this panel, starting with Mr. Tracy. Which character out of the whole story, everything that's out there, do you relate with most, and why? Tracy?
Ooh, wow.
From the movies?
That's a
Tracy's
tough one,
thinking
Ro.
about it. I know.
Come back to
Does
me.
anybody have one off the bat? Boom.
I kind of have one. I'm relating to Rogue right now because I can't touch anybody. I have to fear that anyone's going to come into my inner bubble right now. And I don't know what's going on with my hair. So I'm kind of feeling Rogue. I would want to feel like Storm, like self-actualized and able to control the weather. But right now I'm like isolated and sad. So that's mine.
I feel you. Anybody else? Boom, boom, boom. And somebody that comes up to mind?
Yeah. Again, I go back to Multiple Man. I kind of have to. I'm always here and there and everywhere. I've always got 10 projects going on at the same time, and I wish I could work on all 10 at the same time. I think I tend to be able to see all sides of a conversation, which sometimes can leave me indecisive. And I think Multiple Man suffers kind of the same thing, and I really relate to that character quite a bit.
I know that. Unfortunately, we only have you down for like a little bit less than an hour, but we can go so deep into this, right? Because I know throughout my life, I've gone ahead and related to so many different characters, in so many different ways, growing up as a teen and then being a confused young adult and then like whatever it is I am now, And so it's just like I go through these spurts and these phases, even those times I thought I was Wolverine, but not really. So anyways, it's super interesting. And I know that everybody else that's watching this, whether you're watching this live or maybe after the taping is done, go ahead and comment. Let us know. Let the panelists know. Tag them on this. Tag FanX. Let us know who you relate with, why, what are some of your favorite story arcs, what are your favorite books, some of the favorite scenes, some of the favorite films. Also, what casting do you not agree with? That's one of the things that they went ahead and touched base on. So if there's somebody in particular that you don't like there, hashtag Frasier, that shouldn't be in the mix, let us go ahead and know, okay? Yeah, definitely. Dane, any last words from you or the panelists, man?
Yeah, I guess I kind of want to answer your question. There are days I feel I'm a college professor, so I don't like this is as long as my hair gets. So there are days, and I'm actually going to buzz it later. I just ran out of time. So there are days I feel close to Xavier. Wish I had his money. Wish I had his money. But I get an opportunity, and I mentioned before that I teach classes on graphic novels, and some of my students are in the chat right now and making comments. I get an opportunity to see young people and they're struggling because I teach mostly university freshmen and sophomores, and I see them trying to relate to the world around them and struggle with their identities and kind of come to this idea. So there are days I definitely kind of sit back and very much feel like Professor Xavier. The kind of my last, I want to thank my panelists, Ro. I want to thank you. I want to thank our behind the scenes producers. This has been a great time. When we were behind the panels, I made the joke, like we could have spent an entire panel just talking about any one of these movies, or really we could have spent the entire time talking about one movie's specific cast, or, the ramifications of the Dark Phoenix and why they tried it twice with the same guy and it didn't work. There's so much about the X-Men to be excited about. And, if you're out there and you're watching this, the MCU, there's a great amount of promise. Give them time to get the X-Men cast together and get them in there. I just hope that when all is said and done, it's Ray Fiennes that gets cast as Professor Xavier, and then you use him to cast everybody else.
I like that.
You take Ray Fiennes as Xavier, and you take Armie Hammer as Cyclops, and you use the two of them to make sure that everyone else is the right age, and bam, you've got an X-Men movie. Disney, you can send me my check.
Armie Hammer's been working construction, man. Like, he doesn't even have a job right now.
Wow. Love it. Hey, any last words? Miss Karen joining us all the way from Toronto, I believe, right? From Canada? Yeah, okay, perfect. Last words. Anything else you got to go ahead and say on to the panelists, to the audience, anybody else?
This was a lot of fun. I don't have too many opportunities these days to really indulge in my passions with X-Men. Like, we're still obviously in quarantine here in Canada, and it's just nice to sort of feel a little bit closer to something that I'm deeply passionate about. And it's nice just knowing that even in all this, the stuff that's going on right now, we can still try and take some solace in the things we love. So thank you for having me.
For us, Mr. Joe, last words?
I love the X-Men franchise, and I think it has a fabulously deep and creative well of characters. So I hope as we move forward and see new versions of the X-Men on the screen, that we don't just see the same 2 or 3 characters always anchoring the franchise, because there's so many opportunities out there.
Thanks so much for joining us. Mr. Tracy, what do you got?
I want to thank FanX for hosting these virtual panels because, I mean, like Karen said, we're in quarantine. I haven't seen a lot of people. The people that I do see tend to be my work people through Zoom. So it's nice to see faces and have conversations and talk about something that we all enjoy and love.
Having you, Mr. Tracy. Thank you so much for making time for us. McCord, you know so much about the X-Men, man. How do you wrap it up into a couple last sentences?
Yeah, I get told that a lot. Not always in positive ways. Well, I used to work at the nerd store, and it used to be my job to talk about the X-Men, and it was absolutely wonderful. I unfortunately moved away, and I don't work there anymore. So if you want to talk about the X-Men, please hit me up on Facebook or Twitter, and I would love to talk about anything, the books, the movies, the TV shows, the cartoons, or whatever. It's mostly just my name. There's one other McCord Larson on Facebook, and he's like a lawyer in Idaho, which is not me. So find me. It's McCord Larson on Twitter and McCord Larson on Facebook as well. So if you want to chat, hit me up. I'm dying to talk some more X-Men.
Perfect. And if you can't find him on those, remember, just go ahead and tag him on the comment section, and he will go ahead and get back to you. Yep, they're sliding into those DMs right now. Check it out. Miss Chelsea, hey, thank you so much for being a part of this. Like I said, I miss Puffin. I hope he's around somewhere.
I don't know if you guys can hear him barking. He is going absolutely ham right now. So, yeah, if you want to talk more about comic books and graphic novels, I run Utah's Graphic Novel Book Club. It doesn't cost any money to do it. We have a Discord, so you can stay safe and you can stay quarantined. And this month's selection is actually New Mutants Demon Bear Saga, which is what the new movie is pretty much based on. So go ahead and just check that out. We do a lot of stuff to educate people about different comic books and things like that. So yeah, thank you for giving me a platform and letting me talk about X-Men in the middle of the apocalypse. It's been great.
Thanks so much for joining us, Miss Chelsea. Dane, the man Johns, hey, thank you so much for moderating this. We appreciate you, right? Speaking from the fans and also from FanX. Dude, this is an amazing panel. And like you were saying, hey, there's so much to cover. Dark Phoenix, films, books, everything, New Mutants. So a whole bunch of different stuff, right, that's going on. Dude, I mean, how do you wrap up this last couple sentences? Like, what do you got to say, Dane, before we go ahead and jet out?
Well, I mean, it's been 20 years, right? From 2000 to 2020, 20 years and a whole slew of films. And, The Gifted and Legion got mentioned as kind of like follow-on TV series. There's been so much that Fox has done with these properties, including the New Mutants, which is in theaters now. If it's safe for you to do so, go ahead and check it out. A few of us have seen it. We all think it's pretty okay. And so we won't spoil it here. We purposely avoided some spoilers for you so you can hopefully go see it in theaters and get that experience that Joe was talking about earlier. It's a new day. it's a new day in the comics. The X-Men got rebooted for 2020 in the comics, and it's a new day in movies. And so while there's 50 years of the past to work with, we've got exciting and new adventures. And as 2020 continues to present new challenges for everybody, I think the X-Men, Marvel's a real first family, take that Fantastic Four, are there to support you. And I think the stories are going to continue to reflect the universe. And remember, the X-Men were created specifically by Stan Lee so that he could talk about ethics and diversity stories. They were always meant to be allegories for real world minorities. And so, make sure that when you read X-Men stories, you're reading with that in mind. Minorities are still struggling today. It's up to us to support them. And just like Charles would want us to do, right? We have to be our best selves every day. So it's a new world, it's a new day, and it requires our full engagement.
So much, Dane. Now, as I go ahead and do a little close-up, this is my outro for everybody. Dane touched it on the head. You know what? All of these things go ahead and bring us together as a community. And if you want to go ahead and stay consistent with that, make sure you engage with us on this social media platform. Any and all questions to me, to the panelists, to anybody at FanX, make sure you comment, make sure you message us. And on top of that, hey, we're going ahead and hoping for that 2021 event that's supposed to happen, and it will take place because we miss our FanX family. So gather your superpowers, right? Go ahead and do this right now. Hey, remember, tickets, 25% off. Go to our website. Come on down, because this isn't just a convention. It's a community. That's what we go ahead and thrive ourselves on. That's what we take pride in. And we were able to go ahead and create it with everybody's support. So let's go ahead and keep the ball rolling. Let's talk about all things X-Men. Let's talk about diversity. Let's talk about all these awesome things in the context of everything that we love within pop culture, within comics. You have the ability to do so on our platform, on social media, and also in person. Grab those tickets, come on down, and you'll be able to hopefully go ahead and see all of these amazing people from the panel in person. Find McCord particularly. Talk his ear off. Do your thing. Karen, Tracy, Joe, Chelsea, McCord, Mr. Dane. Oh, thank you. Kalkunka, appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. FanX family. We'll see you guys next time. Later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.